Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special bonus round of Retro Encounter, the RPG fan podcast that is not married to current events or talks about video game music all the time. My name is Mike Sollosi, I'm Monsoon on the boards, and I am hosting this special bonus round episode to talk about one of my favorite games, Final Fantasy VI. And we have along with me, we have a special guest that recently played Final Fantasy VI for the first time. Miss Alana Hagues, how are you, Alana?
Miss is an upgrade from normal, so good. Yeah, nice. You've started well.
Oh, thanks. Well, I'm trying to class the joint up a little bit with Josh's absence, so we'll see how that goes.
No.
So, Alana, you recently played Final Fantasy VI for the first time, and that is a bit of a minor mind blow for me, since I've been playing RPGs for more than 20 years, and Final Fantasy VI was one of my earliest RPG experiences I really loved. Like, it wasn't the first RPG I played. It was probably one of the first 8 or 9. But it was a seminal game to me that really shaped how I think about RPGs, and it's one of my all-time favorite games. And you didn't play it until 2016. So, can you first talk a little bit about the feature you wrote, and also just give me a very general impression of Final Fantasy VI to you?
Okay. Well, I mean, first of all, I think I share a lot of the opinions. Hopefully I will share a lot of opinions with everyone. So the feature I wrote back in, it was earlier in the year I wrote it. It took a couple of months to write because I just sort of had to compress everything down because like you say, for you it was a seminal RPG, and 22 years later it's still a seminal RPG, and I'm still sort of digesting everything that I thought about it. So when I wrote out my feature, it was kind of like okay, so why do I go back and play all these old games, but at the same time, how is this game still kind of relevant? And Final Fantasy VI is probably like the benchmark that I would think that, probably even beyond the benchmark of what I would expect most games /RPG /Final Fantasy games to be like. So, I mean, I skimmed over quite a lot of stuff in my feature because it was kind of a joint, this is why I love old Super Nintendo RPGs or PlayStation 1 RPGs. And then sort of went into some bits that I really, really liked, which I think we'll touch on a little bit, but we're going to try and look at mechanics as well, because that's something that they're really good, and they form a really good base. But overall, I loved Final Fantasy VI, and I wouldn't put it in like my top 10, but that might be.
It's in my top 10, which I
definitely
which I made very clear in an earlier podcast that shall not be named.
The one that shall not be named. We won't even say the name because that strikes fear into the hearts of Retro Encounter listeners. But I would definitely. It's not my favorite Final Fantasy either. I mean, it comes second on the list for definite. It does so much right, and I think it's probably just personal preference to why it's not really cracked the top 10 or cracked number 1, which is 9. Which, but Final Fantasy VI does so much right, and we're gonna sing its praises and maybe even nitpick. I mean, I don't know what you think about. I mean, we'll get to the positives and negatives from your perspective because I know how much you like it. So, yeah, we'll go for it and see. Sure.
Now, as to why it took you this long to play it, I mean, I'm sure there's circumstances that play into it. I'm at least 7 years older than you, for one. And
yes.
And you are a resident of the United Kingdom, and the UK did not get Final Fantasy VI until its PlayStation 1 version.
Yeah, 2001. I remember getting a demo disc for it with Final Fantasy X, or at least a copy of it.
Demo disc. That is a retro encounter, definitely. Mm-hmm.
Isn't it? It's so good. And I remember playing it and thinking, this is really cool, and then I just never got around to it. So, shame on me.
And for me, it was. I mean, FF6 is one of the most popular games in the series, and I started playing RPGs during that Square 1990s heyday, and it was insisted that I play FF6 as someone that was trying out a bunch of RPGs. But I I see where you're coming from. I'm like Final Fantasy VI is tied for my favorite game in the series with FF Tactics. Nine is in that top 3 or 4 probably. It's I find it difficult to rank Final Fantasy games after those first two.
Yeah.
But FF6 was very important for where it was coming from as a series and where it was going as a series. Because mechanically, the first 5 Final Fantasy games, 2 being a weird aberration, but they were either a class system where your characters could freely change their stats and abilities by equipping classes, or in FF4 where every character was very static and could only be built one way, and ostensibly each character in FF4 was similar to a class in FF3.
Yeah.
But FF6 stayed away from these static characters and doesn't have a class system. Each character lives in their own skin a little bit with a set of static skills or a character-based set of abilities, and then a shared set of abilities in magic in the FF6's magic system. So, and they basically democratized summons and magic away from just the summoners and mages from older Final Fantasy games, and sort of and didn't over-homogenize every character the way FF8 does, where everyone can basically be the same thing except for their limit breaks. And is very different from a class system like FF5's. So you have these characters that feel unique but have this shared system, and maybe the most mind-blowing part of it is that there's 14 of them, and each of them are unique within the story and feel unique as you play them. And again, that's maybe the thing that is the most striking thing to me about Final Fantasy VI, is that there's 14 characters, and at least 11 of them are fleshed out, interesting characters with a real story role. So
definitely.
Yeah. So what's your impression of the mechanics and sort of the how you use each character in FF6, setting story aside for the time being?
Well, I think I agree with you. I think some characters are obviously lean towards certain roles. Like, even though take Terra. Terra is obviously going to be some sort of magic user. I will bring the story in briefly because she is built up to be this. She's half Esper, half human, so she's obviously got this affinity to use magic slightly better than everybody else. And
to interrupt you quickly, like Terra and Celeste, you might think of them as similar magic users, but unusually both of them can equip all of the best armor and swords in the game.
They can,
which is sort of hilarious how they have these the two main characters who seem like mages but can equip stuff that only the hardiest warriors can. So, sorry.
No, that's fine. But yeah, so there are certain characters who can lean towards magic, but ultimately the best thing to do is kind of spread everybody out. And what I find really interesting is often with Final Fantasy VI in particular, you kind of want to spread out roles a little bit more. So whereas in, say, like, you've got Final Fantasy 4, we'll go for because it's one of the preceding ones. Rosa's definitely a white mage archer character, whereas in Final Fantasy 6, you're probably better off giving it to somebody like, I don't know, I think I tossed between Sabin. I don't know whether people go for French or anything, but
I'm used to calling him Sabin, but his Japanese name is Mashu, which is
that's not helpful.
Yeah, not really. No, but I've always learned Sabin, but it could go either way.
Yeah, Sabin's good. But yeah, usually I give somebody like Sabin who doesn't really have a big pool of MP, but you can use him to attack and then just think, we'll take a breather and heal, or he's
a menu healer.
Yeah, he's a menu healer. But definitely like one of the brothers or any of the melee fighters, because magic is really powerful in this game and definitely takes I think both story-wise, it's probably related to the story. It is really important, but I really love the way that every character, although you can sort of build them with this magic, they have, like you say, we've got this like special ability each. So early on in the game, Edgar and Sabin are probably, throughout the whole game, Sabin and Edgar are probably the two of the best characters if you take the time to use them because of their abilities. So if you take the time to learn all of Sabin's abilities, he's a bit of a powerhouse. But everyone uses all the characters differently, which is really cool because, and with the final dungeon, you have to use everybody, but you have to spread out your roles. And I really like the final dungeon, actually. It might have been a bit of a slog, but I like the way they split the characters up, and
No,
so you
I,
have
I,
to
I
use the
agree.
yeah.
The final dungeon and one late game dungeon, the Phoenix Cave, both
Oh,
yeah both of those have you use multiple parties and then switch between them using up to
yeah,
8 characters in Phoenix Cave and up to 12 in the final dungeon, which
yeah.
is uh, a bit maybe a little bit of a shock if you've maybe only been using the same 5 characters the whole game, but it's but really puts the diversity and size of the cast of FF6 on a main stage, and both of those are really cool dungeons that are uh, not super challenging to navigate based on modern standards, but are both beasts of dungeons, especially within FF6.
Yeah, it's nice to make you use everybody because up until this point, Final Fantasy's made you use 4 characters, 5 characters. So like one, you're using the same 4 classes. Two, you swap between like about 5 or 6 people. It's been a while since I've tried it, and 3 classes. And then 4 and 5, in the original 4, you only have the last 5 people. So you have
Yeah.
Cecil. Yeah,
If FF6 is the first one that is the first Final Fantasy game that had a character switching in and out mechanic.
it's good.
Where
It's
and some Dragon Quest games before it had things like this. So I'm not going to say it was the first RPG to do it, but in FF4, like you said, you have characters come and go, but you never have more than 5. And in FF5, you always have 4 characters on your team. There's no
yeah.
way to switch people in and out. But in FF6, your party size is 4, and by the end of the game, you can have up to a minimum of 3, but up to 14 characters. I won't explain why, since it's a very big spoiler, and we won't. Well, should we talk about the second world? You think is that
We
alright?
can. Oh, Second World's fine, isn't it? It's like the big
All right.
spoiler, but everyone
Okay,
knows about it.
we will talk about it. I will give a spoiler warning before it, just in case there's 8 people that haven't played FF6. Okay. So where were we?
Oh,
So yeah,
multi-character dungeons.
yeah.
Yeah.
So this is the first Final Fantasy game where you can switch characters in and out of your party, usually having them hang out at the airship. But earlier in the game, it's at I think Arvis's house in Narsh.
Yeah.
But they really encourage you to use almost all of this large cast and experiment with the diversity of the cast, and it's super super cool. So, all right, now I want to talk about characters because since I adore Terra and Celeste and
Yes.
maybe Locke even as major protagonists, and technically I think if you recruit Sabin early in the second world, I think he's actually in your party the longest out of anyone.
Yeah.
But
I think so.
it's not even easy to pin down who the main character of FF6 is. But I remember just like the journey that Terra and Celeste have to make, where Celeste is pressured into Terra is pressured into being the ray of hope for this group of freedom fighters, and when the freedom fighters basically fail, Celeste ends up being the ray of hope, and
Yeah.
then has to the second half of the game has stars Celeste in bringing the band back together, as it were.
Yeah.
And it's so many cool story devices going on. I think hope is a metaphor that sort of goes through Terra, through Leo, through Celeste, and I absolutely adore the thrust of the story and the cast. What were your reactions to Terra and Celeste in particular, and beyond them? Like, did you have a favorite character?
Well, I think coming off of Terra and Celeste, I think it's really interesting how they're pushed into this kind of hero role and they can't deal with it. So Terra deals with it by running away and thinking, shunning her kind of Esper half and going, I need to find a purpose. And she finds that with the children in the,
In
see, the
Mobilis.
thing is, yeah, in Mobilis, yeah. And so that's her reason. So she needs to find this reason to fight. And Celeste, she has a reason when she's sort of thrust into it. So she kind of loves Locke and wants to do something, but once spoiler warning time. Once the world is destroyed, Celeste has kind of been left in this position where she thinks, everyone's dead. She's on this island with her grandfather, and she's literally the only thing she's doing is trying to make him live and revive, like bring him back to life. But I mean, really interestingly, and I didn't realize this until afterwards, you can save her grandfather.
He died and you didn't realize it at
And
first?
I didn't realize you could save him. I was like, oh, I'll
Oh.
try it. So yeah, he passed, and but for the poignancy, I think it works because I think I agree. Terra and Celeste were my two favorite characters coming out of it because of how like they came through hardship and they were pushed through this kind of you must be the ray of hope that everyone relies on, and they do get through it. But outside of the main cast, I've got a soft spot for Realm because she's just
Hmm.
kind of adorable, and I love, and I really like Shadow, but I did the really bad thing and didn't wait for him,
Oh, you
and
didn't wait for him?
I didn't realize you could. I
Oh,
absolutely didn't, and I'm so surprised because I knew so much going into the game.
that you didn't know
So
about that. Okay. And
no,
full disclosure, you don't need much time on the clock to wait for him.
no,
If you just have to say wait at least once, and then wait for the timer to get down to 5 seconds, and then he'll come.
Jesus, yeah, and I felt dreadful. I was like, he's not actually dead, and then I like looked it up and was like,
Mm,
okay, he's dead. I was like, oh, okay,
that's a
but him
bummer too.
and yeah, and especially because when you do a lot of Realm's quest, when you get her back in the world of Ruin, you suddenly realize there's this potential, possibly Shadow with Realm's father kind of thing, and it's just
It,
like,
it's pretty okay. This is a spoiler
yeah,
warning for listeners that are uninitiated. Shadow is definitely Clyde, Realm's father. Uh,
yeah,
you there's an item called a memento ring that only the two of them can equip, and the description of it is a picture of Realm's mother. And also
yeah,
if you excuse me, sorry.
that's fine. I just remember that. It's
Yeah,
fine.
and also if you have Shadow in your party and sleep at various inns at different parts of the game, you'll see Shadow's dreams where he remembers his former life as a thief and reminisces also about his wife and daughter that he does whom he doesn't know. He didn't really know Realm as a baby at all, and she was raised by her mother and Strago, who's her grandfather.
Yeah.
So it's but there's a lot of hidden things like that in Final Fantasy VI's narrative. It's a large cast of characters, and even the characters that seem the least significant have these little hidden tricks about them. If I were to,
Yeah.
there's two secret characters, Gogo and Umaro, that don't really have a ton of story attached to them. So other than those two, I think the two characters with like the least amount of story attention are probably Gao and Mog.
Yes.
Gao is a wild boy that lives in the veldt, which is like a savanna, and Mog is a Moogle that just lives with a bunch of Moogles in Narsh. But Gao, there's a scene with Gao where you can reunite him with his father, who's a crazy
Oh, I loved.
who's a
Yeah.
crazy person living I think northeast of the veldt. But you encounter him. Sabin encounters him early in the game, and once you make the connection that Gao is that man's son, you can see a reuniting scene that is just heartbreaking. And Mog has a thing. If you go in the after the world is destroyed, if you go to the if you find when you find Mog in Narsh, she's the only surviving Moogle. And if you search the spot where Mog was standing, you find an item called the Molulu charm,
Yeah.
which is and Molulu is the name of the Moogle that was standing next to Mog in the past when they were standing. So it's like, oh, Molulu was his wife or girlfriend, and he has this charm to remember her by, and it's like this is a character that has almost no dialogue except for Kupo, and seems like almost a throwaway mascot character, but he has this little story moment that you can find if you dig around. It's remarkable how each of these characters gets a story shine when there's 12 major ones and 2 secret ones.
Yeah.
I love the cast of Final Fantasy VI, and my
I
personal favorite is probably Cayenne. The
Oh yeah, I
yeah,
do really like. Yeah.
I like him. The very fussy technophobe samurai who misses his wife and son. Did you do the side quest with Cayenne in Doma Castle in the
I
second
did.
world?
I did do all the side
did.
quests. Yeah. So
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's
that's
great.
that's a pretty intense side quest.
Yeah, it was really frustrating as well, but the emotional intensity of it was great, and I loved because it was a horrible story anyway. So when you found Cayenne, the whole kind of Kefka poisons the entire castle, so it's the kind of moment where you just go, "Oh my god!"
Yeah,
Like
right when you recruit
Kefka's
Cayenne, Kefka poisons the entire castle. Everyone dies except for Cayenne, including Cayenne's wife and son. And
yeah,
then in the second half of the game, Cayenne's mind is attacked by these demons, and you have to jump in and rescue his soul from this demon inside Cayenne's brain. And
it's crazy.
it's awesome. I love that boss battle too at the end because you have your because he'll possess one of your characters, the demon, and you have to kill your characters to see which one the demon is hiding in, and then revive them and deal damage to the demon before he possesses someone again. It's mechanically a really cool boss battle, and and the whole side quest is terrific. I love Cayenne. I love FF6 in general, but also I think when you talk about story and characters in FF6, the biggest item at all that we've inadvertently spoiled it already, but whatever. It's a 20-year-old game. Is Kefka, the main antagonist of the game, succeeds in destroying the entire world right at the game's halfway point. And in the second half of the game, starting as only Celeste, you have to recruit everyone. You have to find everyone in this post-apocalypse world, which is the continents are all different. Most of the towns are destroyed. Some towns don't even exist anymore. Like Vector's gone, I think. And a couple other towns are just husks, and you sort of have to rediscover everything in the world again after Kefka destroys it with basically an apocalypse beam called the light of judgment. So, going in, did you know about that twist?
Yeah, I did. It's quite famous, I think. But what I didn't realize, but like what I didn't realize, I knew the whole of the geography of the world changed, which I loved. But what it does is it kind of takes away this familiarity. So like, you get to the halfway point in an RPG, and you're just like, somebody will tell you, "Oh, I need to go to kind of, well, it's like, I don't know, the castle or Nosh," and you're like, "Oh, I know where Nosh is." So you do this for the first half of the game, and then all of a sudden some character's like, "Oh, I think something's going on in Colbez or wherever," and you're just like, "Oh, okay, I'll go there." And then you get out on the world map and you're like, "No, wait, where's this place gone?" And it's so uncomfortable. And it doesn't help the fact that after the world's destroyed, I remember when Kefka was aligning the statues, I just sort of, like, he'd been building up to this moment of Kefka poisoning people and betraying people and laughing at you while he does things, and you just think, how much do I hate him? And Kefka is like one of these characters that you love to hate, but you love to love him as well because he's so brilliantly done as a villain, and I think he's amazing. And I love the World of Ruin, and I love what he does to it. So this kind of, he doesn't want anything particularly, he just wants to be God essentially, and it's like he actually gets that, and he gets that role. And wandering around the World of Ruin is crazy, but like initially, I've got to be honest, I kind of hated it because where I was stuck with Celeste, like you didn't use Celeste for ages for a while, so you had Celeste right up until Terra, didn't you? And then when you get Terra back, you're just like, "Oh, Terra's here, let's build Terra up and do everything." And then you're stuck with Celeste, who's slightly underleveled and possibly a little bit weak, and you have no idea where everything is, and you're stuck with her. And Sabin, I think, is the first. I think you have to get Sabin and you have to get Setzer?
No, you actually can skip getting Sabin. I do not recommend it, but it's possible to beat the game with only Celeste, Edgar, and Setzer.
It's Edgar, yeah.
Because you need to meet Edgar when you're traveling through South Figaro, and then you need to meet Setzer to get the second airship. But it is possible to recruit Sabin early in the World of Ruin, and I totally recommend it because otherwise the World of Ruin's way harder. But,
definitely.
Yeah, going back to Kefka, I think it's easy to just compare him to other Agent of Chaos, like insane evil characters, like your Luca Blights or your the Jokers. Excuse me. But to paraphrase a line from the movie The Dark Knight, some men just want to watch the world burn, which Kefka definitely does.
He sure does.
In the plot points before the World of Ruin happens, you have these two characters that are both Imperial generals, Kefka and Leo, where Leo is this extremely likable human who cares about his soldiers. Terra might have a crush on him. He's trying to apologize for the Empire's actions and make the world a better place. And then you have Kefka, who is this insane evil person that just wants to just rend the world with magic. And right before the Kefka ends the world, the Empire betrays Leo, and Kefka murders him brutally, and and basically, and I think that I was talking about motifs of hope earlier in this podcast. I think that General Leo is sort of represents the hope of a more united world, and Kefka represents despair. So you actually watch despair vanquish hope, and then despair destroy the world, and then you have to have your last ray of light of hope, Celeste, finally vanquish despair. And maybe I've been playing Danganronpa a little bit too much the past few weeks.
Maybe. I was gonna link it. Yeah.
But I think seeing contrasting Leo against Kefka, and then having Kefka as this insane person who just loves watching people suffer as the main villain, I think really works, and it makes Kefka a rather iconic villain in Final Fantasy history.
Yeah, it's kind of a shame how I don't know whether I can say this word, but bastardized him a little bit in in media now. I just kind of look at him in Dissidia, and I'm just sort of
he's kind of just a goof in Dissidia, but he's dark and evil and weird in the in the main game. Yeah,
definitely. I was gonna say, I feel like Leo for a while is a little bit not corrupt, but you can definitely see the kind of wavering kind of, I want to stick with the Empire, but at the same time, what's going on? I need to do something.
He's a general for the bad guys, but he is obviously the honorable good guy in the crowd of bad guys. Right.
Definitely. And then I always thought when the Empire betrays Leo and goes off with Kefka, I'm always like, what do you see in Kefka? What is it that Kefka does that makes you want to do everything? Just Kefka's so shifty. The first time you see him, and what's it called? Figaro, at Castle Figaro, when you see him, and you're just thinking, how is he a general? He's crazy. He's absolutely insane, and he's just the polar opposite to everybody else. So, you say, he might be this kind of, he's not the agent of chaos typical kind of thing, but he's just so well done. Everything about Kefka is great, and I can totally get why everyone's like, oh, Kefka's the best villain in the series, because he is, probably.
Yeah, at the very beginning of the game, he seems like a bit of a buffoon, and and it seems like they're maybe setting up Emperor Gestahl as the main villain of the series. There's even even in a flashback where Terra learns about her heritage, you see Gestahl murder her mother, which is.
Right.
Which makes you dislike him quite a bit. And it seems like Kefka is maybe just an early game lieutenant. He's obviously bad, but maybe not the most threatening villain compared to Gestahl. But then Gestahl betrays Leo. I think he sides with Kefka over Leo because Kefka wants to pursue the powers of the goddess and exploit magic, but Leo doesn't. And Gestahl is very much on the side of exploiting magic.
Yeah, definitely. So the Magitek is kind of a joint effort between the two of them as well, I think. That might be making that bit up, but they're definitely...
Magitek is... whatever. The Empire invaded the village of the Espers. They discovered you can get magic from Espers. Then Vector in general and Sid in particular developed Magitek to try to improve the world. Kefka is an early experiment subject that made him insane but also gave him magic powers.
Right,
and Leo declined magic experiments to give him powers. Terra has magic power because she's a natural half-Esper, and Celeste has magic power because she was experimented on, like Kefka. But ultimately Gestahl sides with Kefka, and then Kefka betrays Gestahl by killing him and then destroying the world. But I think that Gestahl wanted to rule the world with magic, and Kefka basically wanted to just get as much power as possible and watch the world burn, which
just be God.
Yeah. And Kefka is it doesn't seem like he's a great villain at first, but he's very memorable and really an impressive final villain by game's end. I think that Kefka is the best villain in Final Fantasy history, and it's super good watching it all play out on the screen.
Yep.
So, I mean, the gameplay and characters and story in FF6 is all great, but you know what's also pretty great?
The music.
Its soundtrack.
Oh, it's so good.
The town themes are memorable, like, and some of them are really weird. Like like the Zozo theme has this twanginess to it that you don't really see anywhere else, and
Yeah.
Jador has this weird, grandiose music to it. But I think that the strongest part of FF6's soundtrack is each character has their own music theme, and
Yeah.
they use them almost like entrance music and special dialogue, uh, like introductory music.
Yeah, I love that. That's so cool. I love the
And they're
high kind
also
of like
they're
the
so
screen goes
catchy and
black.
cool too.
Yeah, that just like not like I can't remember one of them off the top of my head, but it's just essentially like a warrior like who wants to save the world and wants the best for her or whatever else. And it's so
Hmm.
good. It's so cheesy, but it's just like, yeah, I just want to get behind you. Like you're building up your rebel army, and it's just like, yes, I want these people on my side. They're so cool. But I love the character themes, and I think obviously everyone knows about Terra's theme, which is the world map theme.
Hmm.
Although in a way, I kind of assume that Awakening is her theme as well. So I think it's track 3 on the soundtrack.
Oh,
It's kind of,
I don't know them by track numbers, I'm afraid. But
but it's yeah, it's one of the first tracks you hear. So it's after the opening and the title sequence where she wakes up in Arvis's room and this kind of really soft music plays, and it's always this kind of like Terra's self doubt. So whereas Terra's theme is kind of Terra trying to be this beacon of light, the
and
Awakening theme is kind of her kind of looking at herself going, am I an Esper or a human? Or what do I need to fight for? Or am I doing the right thing kind of thing? And I really like that that's the thing. But like, oh, I just could go on about the music for this game, but let's carry on. Go on, go
yeah,
ahead.
no, we're still in the music for the time being. I love the music in the game. I think the character themes stand out the strongest because all right, let me back out a little bit. Part of why I love game music is because it attaches context to songs, and a player that likes the music and likes the game can, enhance his or her enjoyment of both by attaching the music to context. And
Yeah.
there's almost no easier, better way than creating context for songs than giving it a theme to a character or town that immediately evokes that person or location. And in FF6, they just do it so brilliantly.
Yeah.
And maybe my favorite musical moment in FF6 is a very iconic scene is the opera in the first half of the game,
Yes.
where they're trying to bait out this adventurer named Setzer, and they're doing so by they replace the opera singer Maria with Celeste, who mysteriously looks just like Maria, and you have to play through this opera as Celeste and making sure you get your lines right and move in the right way. And the opera is an operatic version of Celeste's theme,
That's so
this
great.
very it's called Aria di mezzo carattere, and I don't speak Italian, so that was said incorrectly, and I apologize. But it's just a beautiful rendition of Celeste's theme, which is this very sweet, major key song, and getting it in an opera version with this heist in the background that ends up in a boss fight against an octopus in the rafters
Oh,
and
it's
on stage.
perfect.
It's
It's like, what else would you want for an opera, really?
it's completely crazy, but also amazing. And oh man, I love the opera scene and all of the opera stuff in FF6.
It's brilliant. I love the blend of styles that Final Fantasy VI has in music terms. Like, even like the final boss theme, Dancing Mad, has got so much going on in it that
You
it's
want to talk
just,
about a legendary boss battle theme? Oh
yeah.
boy.
We talk about however long, it's 12 minutes of Dancing Mad or however long it is, but oh boy, like the musical styles in this game are amazing. Like you have Shadow's theme is almost kind of Western and it's so cool. Like you definitely get this kind of worldly wanderer.
And
Um,
Go-Go's theme sounds like the music you would expect inside of a pizzeria.
yeah, I
It,
see that definitely. I mean, that's a pretty good, yeah. You know, I mean,
it,
if you want to describe Go-Go, then just play his theme and you're just, oh, I get it, I think.
I don't get it. I think I think Go-Go's still difficult to explain. Oh, but oh, I guess a small tangent here. What do you think Go-Go's true identity is? Because
Oh,
okay,
wow.
okay,
Yeah.
I don't. You're probably not. You probably have not been following Final Fantasy VI forums and theories for decades like I have. But
No.
there's several popular fan theories as to who Go-Go could be. And first of all, straight up, Go-Go is just a cameo from FF5. There's a Mimic character in FF5 named Go-Go,
Yes.
who you fight to get the Mimic class, and Go-Go is a playable version of that character. But many people believe that Go-Go could be a character from FF6 the return of a character from FF6 in disguise. The most popular theories being that Go-Go is Setzer's long-lost girlfriend, Daryl, because Daryl's ship crashed on the island where you find Go-Go.
Oh my god.
Or Go-Go could be the Emperor Gestalt, because you fight Gestalt on the floating continent, and then he falls to Earth with his whereabouts unknown, and it could be an amnesiac Gestalt. And is there what's the other big theory?
I like the Daryl one, actually, because
the Daryl one's probably the most popular one. But...
Yeah, she's so mischievous and so kind of I'm gonna beat you everything set. So I love that. Oh, I love all the backstories we've already talked about.
Also, I think at least in the Super Nintendo version, the Go-Go's little 2 lines that you see upon meeting Go-Go are, "What is this person wrapped in mysterious robes? A man, a woman, or should we ask?" And
yeah.
So Go-Go's gender is explicitly left unknown, and is Go-Go really Daryl is a popular theory. Oh, and the other one is Bannon. Bannon, the leader of the Freedom Fighters. They're called the Returners at the beginning of the game. He's also whereabouts unknown in the second half. So Go-Go being an amnesiac Bannon is also a popular theory. But yeah, I basically think Go-Go's supposed to be an FF5 cameo, but I welcome wacky theories about him being Daryl or Gestalt.
Yeah, I love some good Final Fantasy theories when they're good, and those are quite good ones, definitely.
I think Daryl holds the most water because that is the island where Daryl's airship crashed.
Yeah,
which is a logical enough connection.
Yeah,
but it's fun to talk about at least.
Wow. I know, and I didn't really use Go-Go, and actually, I think something that I want to ask you, and going back to the kind of mechanics of the game is...
Oh, I can talk about FF6 mechanics forever, so lay it on me.
Well, there are quite a few characters, although we were talking about the kind of non-standard class characters. You have Gao, Go-Go, and I can't remember who else, but they're 2 particular characters who... Well, Go-Go's definitely the Mimic character, so you can use him however you want, but Gao is... I suppose a berserker / blue mage kind of character.
Yes. That's a very good way of putting it. Yeah.
Yeah, between the 2 of them, do you ever use them and kind of because everyone loves to use Gao, and I couldn't really be bothered to put the time or the effort in, which is probably sacrilege to admit to somebody who likes Final Fantasy VI. And did you ever use him, and how did you use him? I guess. And...
Okay, I've used both because I've played FF6 several times. At least. I don't play it over and over, but I've played it at least 4 or 5 times.
Okay.
And Gao and Go-Go are 2 of the most powerful characters if you know how to use them. And Gao requires a lot of effort, and Go-Go requires considerably less effort. But Gao is powerful because you have to... Gao learns what are called rages, and I know you know this, but I'm doing this in case someone in the audience doesn't remember. Rages where you have to... encounter a monster on the Veldt where Go-Go is from, and any monster that you've encountered in the game can appear on the Veldt, except for some bosses. And Gao, by jumping on the monster and being absent for a few battles and then rejoining you, can learn all of the abilities of that monster. But in order to use that ability, he has to go into a rage where he goes berserk and just attacks using the skills of that monster for the rest of the game.
Yeah, I just found it a lot of effort, especially where you have to... I mean, I like the idea of it, the kind of, you fight it. It's kind of like the Monster Arena in 10, I guess, where you fight it, and then it goes to the Veldt, and then you go and fight it in the Veldt, and you learn something from it.
Yeah. No.
But yeah, Gao was, somebody I couldn't really... I made sure he was strong enough to do things, because I had to use him, because, I killed Shadow. So.
Yeah, well, the funny thing about Gao is that his stats are above average. And probably more than half of those rages are useless. But if you... my throat's been a little bit bothering me today. But if you pick out specific rages that you know are good and have Gao learn those and use them consistently, then he'll be your best fighter or your best mage. Because he can use a lot of attacks that no one can use, or a lot of rare blue magic that a bunch of people can't use. And like the one famous rage that you can get right when Gao joins you is the Stray Cat rage, because the Stray Cat has an attack that deals 8 times physical damage.
Wow,
And if you just have Gao on your team using the Stray Cat rage all the time, he'll just be a physical monster. And there's late game ones where he can heal the party to max and throw shields on everyone at all times, or which I think is the Magic Pot rage, but I could be forgetting. I could be misremembering that.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But there's if you like by seeking out specific monsters for him to leap and then use and rage make Gao extremely powerful. But again, that's a lot of effort, because you have to sit around the veldt waiting for these monsters to appear, and it's hard to do that and know ahead of time which ones are good and which ones are bad. And the list of rages that he has is over 200, which is a daunting number.
And then it's remembering what each one does as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you have like a guide open and you can check which ones are good, then Gao is extremely useful. But if you don't know any of that and don't check references, then Gao doesn't seem like very good. But also another reason he's good is the strongest armor in the game is an item that you get only in the arena called the Snow Muffler, and the only people that can equip it are Gao, Mog, and Umaro. So that's another reason Gao's good. And Go-Go, he's not useful for the same reason Gao is. Well, okay, he is useful for the same reason Gao is, in that he can do a lot of things. But I'm going to use masculine pronouns because that's easiest for me, I guess.
Yeah.
But because Go-Go can use every single sub-skill in the game except for summon and morph, that's incredible. Like, being able to use all the defensive magic that Strago can, and all of the offensive skills that Cayenne, Sabin, and Edgar can, and all of the magic that your party collectively knows, and repeat skills for free using his mimic ability is crazy. Go-Go is a ready-made character that's a combination of 10 other characters, which, even though his stats are on the low side, being able to use so many skills at once is hugely useful. So, again, if this is your first time with the game and you maybe don't totally know what you're doing, Go-Go will seem weird and tricky. But really, Go-Go is just as incredibly powerful as anyone else.
Yeah, I think if you manage to keep everyone alive, then you can kind of just pop Gao and Go-Go to one side for, like, the last dungeon. But, yeah, which is a bad thing. But, like, it's a good way to sort of get used to the base game or the main mechanics. But they are really interesting. Like, I did definitely play around with Go-Go a little bit. I think one of his best builds is to do with Shadow anyway, so I didn't really get to play around. Yeah, for throw, definitely. But he was a really, really interesting character, and I just wanted to kind of hear like how you use them, and like it's always been like Final Fantasy's always been, like we said, up to 6. It was kind of like, this is what this character does, this is what this character does. Oh, you can change them, but you kind of need them all to be in a different role. Whereas in this one, you can just swap them around and do whatever you want with them, I guess.
And all of them are unique and cool and have a real story role, and as opposed to just being 4 Onion Knights.
Yeah, Final Fantasy 3 is, I don't know. I just, I don't get on with Final Fantasy 3 very much.
The remake of it was all right, but it's I'm not gonna say it's as good as 6 or 4 or 5 or anything after 3, really.
Yeah, no, I've got a special place for 4 as well. So
4 was my first RPG, so I really like 4.
Oh, yeah, I like 4. It was like my first old Final Fantasy, so yeah. Sure. Definitely.
Well, we have talked a lot about Final Fantasy VI over this past 45 minutes or so. So, let's see, we've hit the characters, we've hit the story, we've hit the music, we've hit the mechanics. Is there any takeaway for this? Do you wish you had played it earlier? Does playing it make you interested in other Final Fantasy stuff? Give me put a bow on it for me. What do you think of Final Fantasy VI now in context with the rest of the series?
I definitely
Okay, that's a huge question, and I apologize, but do your best anyway.
I can definitely see it. It's definitely still one of the best in the series, and I can see why people put it on this huge power grid, and definitely would agree that I prefer it to 7. I mean, with me putting it as second as a start is just kind of saying how well it's held up. Like, there's so much it does that so many games haven't done or don't do. So, like, as much as I didn't like the World of Ruin bit where you split up and you're kind of lost, like, how often are you left to your own devices? Like, you can either do the final boss with a party of 3, which is essentially going to be a party of 1 for the whole...
Right, yeah,
like,
yeah, we're like one person to a group for the final dungeon, right.
yeah. Or you can do all 14 people or 12 and then split it up into 3 groups of 4. Then you've got, like, the fact that... Well, I think one of the things that put me off of 6 for so long was such a... Like, 14 characters is a hell of a lot, and the kind of micromanaging of them all is a bit daunting, but it's quite easy to get into. But, like, when... It just does them so well. Like, there's 14 characters, 12 of them are written into the story very convincingly and all develop, like... And so many RPGs nowadays just leave... There's always like 3 central characters and the rest are like, you can just support the main character, or you can just like buff up the main character and do this.
Or
and
maybe they have one town where they have a bit of a story spotlight, but...
Yeah.
Yeah, and FF6 is 14 of them.
But like every single character has got a stake in it, in the story, and you've got a stake in the story as well. Like, the minute the world is destroyed, I don't think I've ever felt more like not more like a failure, but I've never felt more like I've just screwed up, kind of, what have I done kind of thing. Like, the world's destroyed, you've just kind of left like, so what do I do now? Like, I've got to either rebuild the world or thing, and you kind of think it's the end. But like, Final Fantasy VI there's so much it's done that, I just get so annoyed that so many other games haven't done or don't do as often. And I think contextually in the series, I think overall is the best, but like personal preference otherwise to 9, which was my first Final Fantasy anyway. So, and I've replayed it a few times and just kind of fallen in love with it. But like 6 probably does characters the best because, like you said, there's no one main character, like, and then every single one of them has got a different meaning to it, and it's just really great. And go and play it. I think it's an RPG. I think like Chrono Trigger, you have to kind of play it. I feel like it's one of the ones where you have to sit down and go, right, I'm going to sit through 30 hours, however long it takes you, because some people can do it in like 25 and some people can do it in like 50. But yeah, I mean, go and play it is kind of what I want people to do. It's great. Really, really great.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. It's, I think FF6 and Chrono Trigger and, I don't know, maybe your Secret of Mana as well and Super Mario RPG, those games are all made in the same 2 years.
It's just crazy when you think like about it.
That golden age of Square is, in my very biased opinion, sort of a golden age of RPGs in general. And FF6 is just a must-play game for fans of the genre. And in the context of Final Fantasy in general, it's kind of a turning point game because we talked about how the games before it were all either married to a class system or with very static characters, and the games after FF6 introduced these systems like materia and junctioning and the sphere grid, where it turns turns everyone into an everyman kind of character.
Yeah.
And FF6 strikes that balance so perfectly, and also has this terrific cast and compelling story that has some genuinely shocking turns if you're not expecting them already.
Even if you are, I think they're still shocking. It's the experiencing them, I think. That's kind of really cliche to say, but it is the kind of living through them, and you go, like, when the world's destroyed, when the opera, Ultros. Ultros is kind of a thing to be beheld, kind of like you see Ultros in 14.
Explaining Ultros does not... it does not really do Ultros justice.
No, it's kind of like Gilgamesh. If you see Gilgamesh everywhere, it's fine. Like, you can't really explain it, and Ultros kind of falls into that camp. And it's a Typhon as well. The kind of, I don't remember, but there's a boss that's really, I might even be thinking of Chrono Trigger as well. But there's a boss in Chrono Trigger and in Final Fantasy VI where they're just so weak that they just kind of run off crying, and they're like, oh no. But like, there's so much in it that you have to kind of, you hear about and you're like, oh, this is famous, it's legendary, and then you go and play it and it's like, now I get it.
All right, well, it was a delight talking about FF6 with you, Alana. Thank you for agreeing to let me rant at you and ask you questions about this game that you recently just finished.
No,
And
that's
thank you, listeners, for sticking with us for this hour. It's I love talking about FF6, and it was so much fun recording this. And please continue to listen to Retro Encounter for way more cool RPG discussion and game journals. I'm not sure exactly when we're releasing this, but you've probably heard us talk about Danganronpa a little bit in the previous month, and I think Child of Light in the upcoming month. So look forward to that. And Alana, where can listeners find you?
I'm diving Falcons on the boards or Twitter. My handle is at Alana Hagues. So yeah, come talk to me about Final Fantasy VI. Really, no, just talk to me about anything. I'm always up for things.
Cool.
Go for it.
And I'm Monsoon on the boards and at the Real Monsoon on Twitter. So once again, thank you for listening. Thank you for talking